enormously gifted, a true all-rounder. He was the subject of tabloid media hype and hysteria, a rebel who didn't always have a cause. England's hero, a true match winner. Ian Botham is one of ESPN's legends of cricket.
Superlative exhibition this has been, and the whole of Old Trafford rise into its feet to acclaim yet another memorable, magnificent performance.
The 1981 Ashes series has become a part of English cricket folklore. The series will forever be remembered as Botham's Ashes.
81 Headingley, Birmingham, Manchester, three magnificent games, three magnificent solo performances. They are going to stand out. And because it was an Ashes series, well, OK, that means it's indelibly etched in our minds forever.
And it's bowled in, and surely is going to be it.
I think the crowd got majority of those wickets for me because the atmosphere, it was, you could actually see it, it intimidated the batsmen coming out. I don't care what they say. You could see it, you see it in their eyes, and you ran in and the crowd and this noise, it built up. I would imagine it would be like a Roman amphitheatre, the gladiators. It was very, very intimidating for the people out there if you were on the receiving end.
That's it this time. He's made sure he's taken 5 wickets, he grabs a stump, and another memorable victory for England.
Botham was a big muscular man, nicknamed variously as Beefy, Boff, or Guy the Gorilla. But he was no wild slogger. His batting technique was good. His defence was excellent when he chose to use it. And he hit the ball as hard as anybody in the game.
All good shots, straight down the ground. Botham doesn't bother running. When he hits them, they stay hit.
Ian Terence Botham, Sir Ian Terence Botham. Good enough to be Australian, this fella. Oh, he was just awesome.
Charging, hitting it away over extra cover, into the stand. 6 runs for Ian Botham.
The great thing was simply that he believed he could win a game almost single-handedly at virtually any time. Any team meeting you care to mention, you throw out those 15 years or so of his Test career, and he would say, this is a waste of time, let's just go and beat them tomorrow. What are we talking about this for? And he'd be sort of thumping the table, be all enthusiasm. And I suppose of all the players I've played with over the years, he's the one who could actually back it up with his deeds on the field.
Oh, it's bowled!
As a bowler, Botham could swing the ball both ways from a fairly short run, and he had a remarkable knack of getting good batsmen out with bad balls.
Oh, he's got him! He's nicked out. He's caught behind. Botham has struck straight away.
He could swing it both ways, and he bowled a fairly useful change of pace bouncer. He had a slower ball. All I can say is, you don't get 300 and something wickets by bowling rubbish, and not only that, but he kept on knocking over top players.
Because of his achievements, the amount of wickets he took, the amount of runs he scored, but probably the amount of matches which he won for England, and also I think some players are special. They make sure that there's no one at the bar. When he was batting, he was bowling, people wanted to watch him. You always thought something was going to happen. There are a few cricketers like that around the world who, even other cricketers, former cricketers, current cricketers, want to watch, not just the spectators. And I think Botham was one of those guys.
In the field, Botham was sure-handed.
He could field anywhere, and he was a magnificent slips fielder. He was a good outfielder too. I mean, there are plenty of times we sent him out to patrol the boundaries. He had a good arm. He'd catch the ball whether he was 10 yards from the bat or 110 yards from the bat.
Coming in, they're going to take him on. Oh dear, he's out.
Beefy was the heart of England. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt. Because of what he was, I mean, he was larger than life. And you talk about Imran Khan putting sort of Pakistan cricket in lights. Well, Beefy did the same for England. I mean, he put them in lights, and, he was the first sort of real sort of, if you like, mega superstar.
And like him or hate him, you can't keep this man out of the limelight.
I'm going to talk about a real all-rounder. OK, someone who can do all that on the field and do everything that he did off the field as well. When the way that man has lived life, he is the genuine all-rounder.
There's the century. 4 runs just in front of points. Ian Botham, 103, his 13th Test century.
Playing for Somerset, Ian Botham announced his presence on the cricket stage on the 12th of June 1974. He was 18 years old, facing a fearsome bowling attack, and his side was under pressure.
It was Hampshire against Somerset. I think it was a quarter-final. Andy Roberts bowled me a bouncer. Well, I was a little boy from Yeovil Town. I hadn't seen anything like this. And Andy came steaming in, bounced me, and I thought for a moment of stupidity. Actually, I think for a split second, or a thousandth of a second, thought about hooking it. But then instinct and common sense took over, and I ended up defending myself. And the ball hit me here, went on and grazed my, a little cut up here, nothing serious. And 2 teeth out here and 2 on the recoil this side. It was quite a bang. Actually, it probably did me a lot of good because I think I was probably concussed and went on and got the runs.
Despite the blood and smashed teeth, Botham stayed at the crease to make 45 not out, win the game and start the legend.
Well, my first recollections of Botham were before he was even picked for England. He was out in Melbourne during the centenary test match on an SO scholarship. They quickly stopped their sponsorship of cricket after Ian's involvement with them in Melbourne. And he was meant to be helping out in the dressing room. Benson and Hedges, the sponsor of the centenary test match, had 500 bats, no less, that we had to sign during the game. And his job with Graham Stevenson, the former Yorkshire bowler, was to get us lot to sign these bats. But you'd come into the dressing room in the morning and Ian would be curled up in the corner asleep, having been out all night on the Terps. So we knew what we were letting ourselves in for when he finally made the England side in 1977.
Botham played his first Test match in 1977 and made an impact from day one.
I said then that this lad will go on and put his name in the record books, yes. But I'd also said that before he played his first Test, because I'd seen him play a few games, quite a few I'd umpired when he played for Somerset. And I said then that this kid were going to go all the way.
And he's bowling, first ball, his first wicket in Test match cricket, and what a scalp to get.
Botham's arrival really summed up the man. It really set the precedent for what would follow. The way he came in against Australia, who turned out to be his favourite enemies, of course. He took 5 wickets on debut, and the way he got his first wicket really summed up the man. It was a revolting long hop, and Greg Chappell, the kingpin of the Australian batting order, was the man he bowled it to. Any other day, Chappell would have carved it away through the covers for 4. He chopped onto his stumps, and you can't script that. You couldn't ever script anything that Botham did. He had this knack of putting his presence on a game and just taking people down with sheer force of presence. He could do that even on debut. He just was a remarkable character.
That's it. That's the 100. Back with a square leg. That's the 100 to Botham.
Botham made his first Test century in early 1978 against New Zealand.
Got off to a flying start, 5 wickets in your first match, and then another 5-wicket haul, and then New Zealand 100 came, and then it just all seemed to happen so quickly, and it was great.
In 1979, Botham achieved the double of 1,000 runs and 100 wickets in Tests, faster than anyone in history.
He was larger than life. He never had a grudge against anyone. He'll try his backside off to knock you over. He liked to spend a bit of money to get you out. And he played like an Australian. He don't like to defend the ball and whatever. He went hard after the ball. He was great to watch. Fantastic player.
He's one of those guys that he just believes he can score the runs necessary, or take the wicket, or take the catch. He's so confident in his abilities that he backs himself to the hilt.
A huge influence in this early stage of Botham's career was the English captain Mike Brearley.
Well, Brears, I suppose you'd say, was a little bit like a fatherly figure for me. We got on well, first of all, which I think is important. I think it was the Aussie boys who'd said that the thing with Mike Brearley is he's got a degree in people. And that really is a very good way of summing him up, because when you speak to him and meet him for the first couple of times, you can always feel his eyes looking straight past here. He's in here somewhere, seeing what's going on in there. He's a remarkable guy, but I enjoyed playing with him. He gave me a bit of freedom to express myself, and we used to have some quite good rapport in the slips.
Botham began 1980 with a remarkable performance in the one-off Jubilee Test in India. He scored 114 and took 13 wickets. Shortly after, he took over the captaincy of England from his mentor, Brealey.
I think in a way that self-belief, that sort of belief that he could win under any circumstances, hampered his captaincy. Because it's not easy to transmit that to 10 other players, some of whom, inevitably, being more mortal, as it were, than Ian, would have the odd little bit of doubt there. And I think as a captain, he would look back now and say, well, actually, he needed to do more than he did. There was the same sort of feeling pre a game, let's just go and do it, lads. And you need more than that. I think you need to do more than that as a captain. You need to understand the needs of individual players more. And it was just proof, I think, that at that stage of his career, in fact, the captaincy wasn't quite what he needed.
As I say, he's 100 miles an hour, even his captaincy. I don't think he was particularly willing to work out that other people weren't quite as talented as him. I think that was his main failing. His cricket basically was completely belied the myth that it's dedication that brings you success. For him, it was just success brings you success. He was natural. He didn't understand that some people just simply can't do what he does, which is go out till 4 in the morning, drink everyone else under the table, get out of bed, and smash 100 or take 5 wickets.
The low point of his captaincy came during the 1981 Ashes series. After poor English performances in the first 2 tests, Botham resigned.
It wasn't just that he was stripped of the captaincy, he resigned moments before he was told he was going to get booted out anyway. He'd just got a pair, in fact, at Lord's. He was at a totally low ebb.
And what happened after that, Mike Brealey took over. And whilst we were practicing up at Headingley, Brealey sort of went up to Beefy quietly. He said, look, I've got another all-rounder up here, Beef. You've been under a huge amount of pressure. I'm thinking of leaving you out tomorrow. And Beefy just turned around and said, Breers, if you leave me out tomorrow, you'd better get another captain up here, because you'll be hanging off that balcony. I mean, that's how desperately he wanted to retrieve things and turn them around. And my goodness, didn't he?
In the air, and 6.
Botham then produced those memorable performances that would destroy Australia and re-establish himself as England's favourite son.
From that point, you know, we get a totally different cricketer. We turn up at Headingley for the next Test match. Ian's batting performance in that particular Test match, you know, will always stick in my mind as being, you know, Ian Botham at his absolute belligerent best. We're at tea time, day 4. England have got no chance. But the period between tea time and stumps was some of the most extraordinary cricket you'd ever want to see. Before you knew it, you know, almost in that period of 2 hours, the whole game had just turned around, and you know, that's what he could do to a cricket match, and he did it quite a number of times, particularly against us.
Botham followed his match-winning 149 in the 3rd Test with a devastating 5-for-1 bowling spell in the 4th match at Edgbaston, once again snatching an unlikely victory for England.
Well, the thing is that Australia were 89 for 3, and I think they only needed 130 odd or something like that to win the Test. 89 for 3, so I thought to myself, well, it's only a matter of time before they get these runs. And I know Brealey said to Both, can you give me what have you got left? And Both said, I'll give you everything I've got, he said to Brealey, because he respected Brealey so much. He came on at the City end at Edgbaston, and the rest is history. He took 5 wickets for 1 run and won the Test for England. It was an amazing performance.
There are many, many exploits that you could go on with Beef about, whether it be Headingley in 81, where he got 149, and then in two matches later got, when it looked like England were going to lose a match, you know, with Australia chase 154 in the 81 series, he got 5 wickets for 1 run. Having been sulking in the outfield because he thought he should have been bowling instead of the spinners. So when he came on, he did something about it, quite enormously about it.
Having completely transformed the series, Botham then delivered the knockout blow to the Australians with another century in the 5th Test.
I really enjoyed that. To take on Dennis Lillee, who I think is the best bowler of all time, to take him on and to win that day and win comprehensively was a nice feeling.
In the air. And again.
After 1981, he was plagued by back problems, which affected his mobility. Although he would struggle to stay fit, he continued to produce magic moments. In the 1985 Ashes series at home, Botham took 31 wickets, once again reserving his best for his favourite foe, Australia.
I think as much as anything, it's the way the Aussies play the game. I've always admired that. They play really hard on the field. Don't expect anything, don't give anything. But in the days when I came into the game, you come off the field and if we'd been fielding all day, you put your feet up, the Aussies had been batting, would come in with a couple of cold beers, you'd sit down and chew the cud. I mean, it was war out there, believe me, on the field. But it's 6 o'clock, so time to relax, and I learnt a lot from listening to those guys and what they had to say.
In 1986, Botham became the highest wicket taker in Test matches.
And taken by Jack Richards.
In Australia in 1986-87, he took 5 for 41 in Melbourne and made 138 in Brisbane.
Straight down the ground, beautifully played, and that brings up Ian Botham's century.
That's probably one of the best innings I've seen him play. We're in a situation where we had England in a little bit of trouble, and all of a sudden Ian turned up the crease, and typical of him, he sums it up the situation pretty quickly. He decides, right, I'll take the attack to the Aussies. They've got their nose in front. We'll see what happens. And talk about sort of, from 1 minute you've got a real sniff, good decision to send them in. We've got England in a bit of strife. An hour and a half later, you're sort of, deflated. He's just taken the wind right out of your sails with this, extraordinary batting. And that's the way he played.
Botham getting a standing ovation from the crowd here at the Gabba for a magnificent contribution.
Throughout the late 80s, Ian Botham was becoming better known for what he did off the field than what he did on it.
In the 1980s, his face sold newspapers was really what it came down to. He was banned for admitting to smoking marijuana in 1986, and funnily enough, when he was out of the side, England were abysmal. They lost to everyone, and he comes back moments later after his ban. He suddenly breaks the world record, gets the wicket in his second over, and the rest is history. Graham Gooch said, "Who writes the scripts?" He was a man who dominated everything that he ever came across, including, in the public eye. Everyone was looking at him, he knew it, and carried on regardless.
Ian Botham enjoyed life on and off the field, and I certainly can't blame him for doing that, and I certainly wouldn't criticize him for doing that. Life was made for living. I think a lot of times Ian Botham's life came in the papers because he was Ian Botham. He was one of the greatest cricketers England ever produced, the greatest all-rounder, in my opinion, they have ever produced, and so the spotlight was on him, and whenever he went to enjoy his life off the field, they would keep on following him, they'd keep on reporting on it. And that's just the way life is here in England.
In general, I actually got on very, very well with the majority of the cricket writers, inverted commas, the real reporters from our point of view. What was a problem was that there was a tabloid war going on, which everyone's aware of, and there's 65 million people on this rock, and it's big business. So obviously there was a period where some editors perhaps didn't worry quite so much about whether it was true or not.
Ian Botham retired from Test cricket in 1992. Fittingly, his final first-class match for Durham in 1993 was against the touring Australians.
One morning, it took me about 7 or 8 minutes, literally, to get out of bed. And I thought, I've had enough of this. It's very frustrating when you can't perform as you had before. So it just made sense to me, well, get out. And I'm not enjoying it. And I knew that there was no future for me in the England side that year, so what's the point of me cluttering up first-class cricket and get out of the way and let some youngsters come through.
Tees off again, great shot.
Ian Botham bounded into the spotlight in 1977. the year in which most of the world's best players defected to Kerry Packer's World Series cricket. He was seen as a gifted, carefree young gun who played for love rather than money. He brought flair and passion to the dour English game, on and off the field.
He changed English cricket, really. I really think he had a bit of West Indian blood in him, really, the way he plays. But when he had a ball in his hand, you know, he was doing something all the time. When he went out to bat, he played like he wanted to play, not what the coach might or the captain might tell him. But he enjoyed his cricket, and he gave England great service. And gave cricket in general, you know, a bit of a boost.
His exploits are still talked about, you know, in revered sort of terms, particularly when you're talking about Ashes battles. And I think what made him so good is that he's one of these larger-than-life sort of characters. He's one of those blokes that he never believes there's any situation that he can't, you know, do something about.
Ian Botham played in 102 Test matches. He made 5,200 runs at an average of 33.54 with 14 centuries. He took 383 wickets at an average of 28.4 and completed 120 catches. He was one of cricket's great all-rounders. For a few wonder years, Botham was the miracle man. He seemed superhuman. When he turned out to be very human indeed, those very flaws seemed to make him even more popular. He was a working-class hero in the pastime of aristocrats.
People will talk about Ian Botham for years and years, for decades, and especially in England. People will talk about Ian Botham forever. Again, because of the Ashes series, 1981 Ashes series, when they watched Ashes here and that Test match at Leeds. But anywhere you go, youngsters who never ever saw Ian Botham live or even on tape, they talk about Ian Botham because he is the thing when it comes to cricket here in England. And it's pretty difficult to see anyone superseding him. So Ian Botham, his legacy will live on forever. Great all-rounder. The lifestyle he lived, the way he played the game, people won't forget that.
He was a massive campaigner, anti-leukemia campaigner as well, which is possibly one of his biggest legacies. In 1977, he went along to a children's hospital and saw these kids playing around. The nurse told him that, oh, they've all got terminal leukemia. And he just couldn't believe this. He couldn't fathom how seemingly healthy-looking children could possibly be on the verge of death. And basically, he has spent the rest of his career really promoting that cause. He has raised millions for that cause, and it's really that, alongside his cricket, really sum up the legacy of the man. Everything he does absolutely wholeheartedly.
One of the great characters of world cricket, on the field and off the field.
Yeah, great friend and great company. But if you sit there and try and go drink to drink with him, I know who's going to come off second best.
Always something would happen, whether he had a ball in his hand or a bat in his hand. Something would always happen. You know, whether it's falling over the stump, getting your leg over, whatever it was, or taking endless wickets, or caught and bowled, or he just couldn't turn away.
Botham was a shooting star, the quickest to take 100 wickets and score 1,000 runs in Test matches. At his peak, he routinely achieved the unlikely and occasionally the impossible. He is without doubt one of ESPN's legends of cricket.